Director, and Shri Dr. Silvano Sapeco. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our dignitaries onto the stage for the inaugural function. A lighted lamp symbolizes the immortal flame of knowledge and understanding. Hence, I would like to invite our dignitaries for the auspicious lighting of the lamp, invoking the blessings of Mars for the student. Thank you all. As the anchor for today, my task is to guide you through this program. So before we dive into the schedule, I would like to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to our distinguished guests. We extend a very warm welcome to Professor Dr. R. Venkata Rao, Vice Chancellor in Charge, India International University of Legal Education and Research, who has graciously taken time from his busy schedule to support us as chief guest and panelist for today's function. Professor Rao has been the chairperson, Vivekananda School of Law and Legal Studies and Vivekananda School of English Studies under the Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies, New Delhi. Prior to this, he served as Vice Chancellor of the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, for more than 10 years since 2009. He was awarded Professor N.R. Madhava Menon Best Law Teacher Award for the year 2018 and holds 45 years of experience in teaching and research till date. We heartily welcome you, sir. I now request our Honorable Director, Professor Dr. Naveen Kumar Chaudhary, to felicitate Professor Rao with a token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir. Our function is also graced by the distinguished presence of Sri Omir Singh Bishnoi, IPS, Inspector General of Police, Goa Police, as the guest of honor. Sri Bishnoi is a 2004 batch Atmod Cadre IPS officer and has previously held postings of Director General of Police for Chandigarh, Pondicherry and Delhi. He joined Goa Police in 2022 and received the President's Police Medal for meritorious service in 2014, and in 2007 he was conferred with the Prime Minister's Police Medal for life saving. We welcome you, sir. I now request Dr. Lokesh Chauhan to present the Omir Singh Bishnoi with our token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir. Our Our next guest of honor is Srimati Poonam Barne, Director, Department of Prosecution, Goa. Srimati Barne was earlier appointed as Secretary Vice President and elected as the President of All Goa Association of Assistant Public Prosecutors and Public Prosecutors from 2019 until her promotion to Director of Prosecution on 1st January 2023. After almost 27 years of service, Ma'am has completed her graduation in arts with an economics and psychology from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, after which she studied law and obtained her LLB degree from B.N. Salgaonkar Law College, Miramar. We welcome you, ma'am. I now request Sri Raman Kumar, Deputy Registrar, NFSU Goa, to felicitate ma'am with a token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir. We are glad to have with us our international speaker and guest of honor, Professor Stephen Barnes, Dean of Graduate and International Programs, Penn State Law School, USA. He oversees the LLM, SJD and pre-LLM admissions, international student services, certificate programs, student exchanges, and the visiting scholar program at Penn State Law. Professor Barnes is a law professor, dean, and lawyer with experience in teaching US and international law, contracts, legal research, and writing. We welcome you, sir. I now request Dr. Rajkumar Jaiswal, Assistant Professor, NFSU Goa, to present Professor Stephen Barnes with a token of our gratitude. Thank you, sir. No occasion is complete without our next guest, Professor Naveen Kumar Chaudhary, Director, Goa Campus. Dr. Naveen Kumar Chaudhary has been the Professor of Cybersecurity and Dean at National Forensic Sciences University, Gandhinagar since 2019. He is also a Courtesy Research Professor at the Knight Foundation School of Computing and Information Sciences at Florida International University, Miami, USA. He holds a Bachelor of Technology degree in Information Technology and Telecommunication Engineering and a Master of Engineering degree in Digital Communication. He earned his PhD in Engineering and advanced certifications in Cyber and Network Security. He heads the Training and International Relations Department of the university and holds the additional charge of Director, NFSU Goa Campus. He has extensive experience of more than 25 years in engineering, education, research, and government. He has authored and co-authored 3 books and 38 research papers and book chapters. We welcome you, sir. I now request Dr. Jared Mohan, Assistant Professor, to felicitate our respected lecturer. Thank you, sir. Now request all the dignitaries to be seated. To propose the welcome speech, I now request Dr. Mrinal Kale, Assistant Professor, to come to the dais.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning and very warm welcome to one and all present here from National Forensic Sciences University, Goa Campus. I, Dr. Mrinal Kale, faculty member of Forensic Science, would like to give and once again welcome our dignitaries and distinguished guests today. It is a great pleasure to have you all here. I want to take this moment to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Professor Dr. R. Venkatarao, Vice Chancellor, India International University of Legal Education and Research, Goa, along with our guest of honor, Sri Omveer Singh Bishnoi, Inspector General, Goa Police, Srimati Poonam Barne, Director, Directorate of Prosecution, Goa, and our eminent speaker, Professor Stephen Barnes, Dean of Graduate and International Program at Penn State Law School, for gracing this workshop with their presence and support. It is a great pleasure to have Professor Meenakshi Ganguly, a speaker who serves as honorary professor at National Law University, Odisha. The workshop would not have been possible without never-ending and always extending support of our Chief Patron, Dr. J.M. Das, Vice Chancellor of National Forensic Sciences University, our support system and phenomenal guide, our campus director of NFSU Goa campus, Professor Dr. Naveen Kumar Chaudhary, and convener Dr. Lokesh Chauhan, Dean Academics, NFSU Goa campus. The contributors, coordinators, and distinguished faculty members, and my dear students, National Forensic Sciences University Goa campus welcomes you all in one-day workshop on use of technology and forensic in new criminal laws. The workshop promises to enlighten the attendant on the magnificent trial of this new era of justice, forensic, and technology. Recently, in 2023, three bills, namely Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita, and Bharatiya Saksha Adhiniyam, have been passed in winter session of Parliament. These bills will repeal and replace Indian Penal Code 1860, the Code of Criminal Procedures 1973, and Indian Evidence Act 1872, respectively. The Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita (BNS) retains most offences from IPC. It adds community service as form of punishment. Sedition is no longer an offence. Instead, there is new offence for acts endangering the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. The BNS adds terrorism as an offence. It is defined as an act that intends to threaten the unity, integrity, and security of the country, intimidate the general public, or disturb public order. Organized crime has been added as an offence. It includes crimes such as kidnapping, extortion, cybercrime committed on behalf of cyber syndicate. Petty organized crimes is also an offence. Murder by a group of 5 or more persons on grounds of certain identity markers such as caste, language, or personal belief will be an offence with penalty of 7 years to life imprisonment or death. The Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Samhita, 2nd, 2023, will be henceforward called as BNSS 2, replaces Criminal Procedure Code 1973. The CRPC provided for procedure for arrest, prosecution, and bail. The BNSS 2 mandates forensic investigation for offences punishable with 7 years of imprisonment or more. Forensic experts will visit crime scene to collect forensic evidence and record the process. All trials, inquiries, and proceedings may be held in electronic mode. Production of electronic communication devices likely to contain digital evidence will be allowed for investigation, inquiry, and trial. If a proclaimed offender has absconded to evade trial and there is no immediate prospects of arresting him, the trial can be conducted and judgment pronounced in his absence. Along with specimen signature and handwriting, finger impressions and voice samples may be collected for investigation or proceedings. Samples may be taken from a person who has not been arrested. The Bharatiya Saksha Bill 2023 BSB2 replaces Indian Evidence Act 1872. It retains most provisions by IEA, including those on confession, relevancy of facts, and burden of proof. The IEA provided two kinds of evidences, documentary and oral. Documentary evidence includes primary, such as original documents, and secondary, that proves the contents of original documents. The BSB2 retains this distinction. It classifies electronic records as documents. Under IEA, electronic records are categorized as secondary evidence. The BSB2 classifies electronic records as primary evidence. It expands such records to exclude and include information stored in semiconductor memory and any communication devices such as smartphones and laptops. The BSB2 expands secondary evidence to include oral and written admission And the testimony of person who has examined the document is skilled in examination of document. The legal system is a complex framework of law, regulation, and legal principles that governs the behavior and interaction of individuals and organizations within society. Legal research is an integral part of legal profession, serving as foundation for legal decision making, case preparation, and legal scholarship. It involves examining statutes, court decisions, legal opinions, and other legal sources to understand and interpret the law accurately. The ever increasing volume of legal information and need of rapid access to relevant sources have posed challenges to traditional research methods and necessitating the integration of technology. Technology has played a pivotal role in revolution of the field of legal research. It has introduced innovative tools, resources that have streamlined the legal process, improved accessibility to legal information, and empowered legal professionals with new capabilities. One of the most significant advancements is digitalization of legal material, which has led to development of online databases, digital libraries, and electronic resources. These platforms provide convenient and instant access to extensive collection of legal material, eliminating the constraint of physical location and limited access to personalized legal collections. Furthermore, technology has expedited the retrieval and analysis of legal information. Advanced search algorithms, machine learning techniques, natural language processing have enabled researchers to efficiently navigate vast repositories of legal data, identify relevant cases, legal opinions, and extract valuable insights. Legal research platforms equipped with artificial intelligence capabilities can even predict case outcomes and provide valuable recommendations assisting legal professionals in making informed decisions. Moreover, the integration of technology in legal research has enhanced collaboration and knowledge sharing within legal community, which fosters a dynamic and interconnected legal ecosystem, promoting continuous learning and innovation. However, the transformation brought about by technology also presents certain challenges. Ensuring the reliability and authenticity of online legal resources, safeguarding sensitive legal information, and addressing the ethical implication of AI and machine learning algorithms are critical concerns. Legal research software and tools were developed to streamline the research process further. Legal professionals could now utilize software applications specially designed for legal research, providing advanced search capabilities, citation tracking, and document management features. These tools not only expedited the legal research process but also improved the accuracy and organization of legal information. The digital transformation of legal research has been fueled by ongoing advancement and innovation in technology. Additionally, legal professionals no longer face geographical limitation and depend on physical law libraries for their research needs. Online platforms offer a wide range of legal resources, including court decision, regulation, and legal journals, which can be accessed anytime, anywhere. Furthermore, collaborative technologies have facilitated knowledge sharing and collaboration among legal professionals. Virtual platforms and discussion forums provide opportunities for legal scholars and practitioners to exchange ideas, engage in scholarly debates, and practitioners to collectively contribute to legal knowledge. AI and automation will continue to play a significant role in transforming legal systems. AI-powered technologies will automate repetitive tasks such as document review and contract analysis, freeing up time for legal professionals to focus more on complex and strategic work. Machine learning algorithms will improve legal research capabilities by analyzing vast amount of data, identifying patterns, and providing predictive insights. Virtual assistants and chatbots may become more sophisticated, offering personalized legal advice and support to individuals. Smart contracts, which are self-executing agreements, based on blockchain can automate contractual obligations and streamline transactions. Blockchain's decentralized and immutable nature can enhance data security, reduce fraud, and ensure integrity of legal documents and evidence. Online dispute resolution platform will gain more prominence, offering faster and accessible and cost-effective alternatives to traditional litigation. ODR platforms can facilitate negotiation, mediation, and arbitration processes, allowing parties to resolve disputes remotely and efficiently. However, as technology continues to evolve, it is crucial to address ethical considerations, establish robust regulatory framework to ensure fairness, accountability, and protection of individual rights. Today's workshop will highlight all these points in session by our eminent speaker, and we will also witness a panel discussion regarding subject matter with our distinguished expert members. Now, without any further ado, let us start the one-day workshop on use of technology and forensics in new criminal law. Thank you. I hand over the stage to Ms. Lorca.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request our guest of honor, Srimati Poonam Baldwin, ma'am, to say a few words.
Respected dignitaries on the days of the day, good morning, one and all. I would like to first of all thank National Forensic Science University for inviting me as guest of honor today and giving me this opportunity to address you all at the inaugural session of one-day workshop on use of technology and forensics in new criminal laws. On this topic, in the afternoon session, my two public prosecutors, Karan Gupta and Kashila Nagupta, are going to give a broad perspective on especially on this topic. As you all know, on 11th August 2023, three bills were introduced in the Lok Sabha that seek to repeal and replace age-old colonial criminal law. These bills got President's assent on 25th December 23, and on last Saturday, these three acts are now notified by central government for implementation in the country with effect from 1st July 2024. Three separate notifications are issued. I will give you a brief review of all three laws as far as the changes in these laws are concerned. Very important is that after the implementation of the three new criminal bills, there would be a uniform justice system throughout the country. These three new laws, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, BNS, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita Bill 2023, BNSS, and Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam 2023, BSA, will now replace IPC 1860, Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, and Indian Evidence Act 1872 IA. I especially mention all these names of three laws because it is better the more you hear to memorize these new names. In the new Act BNS, the chapters and offences against women and children, serious offences like murder have been given precedence. The offences against women and children, which were scattered in the entire IPC, have been now brought together and have been consolidated under Chapter 5. Earlier, it was under Section 375, 509, 354, 498A, and now it is under Section 63 to Section 99 of BNS. The offences against human body are also brought up in the order and are now placed after the offences against women and children. BNS will now consist of only 358 sections as opposed to 511 sections of IPC. All three incomplete category of offences, that is attempt, abatement, and conspiracy, are brought together under one chapter in BNS. Crime against women and children have been given priority. Stringent punishments are provided for offenders of sexual offenses against women. In economic offenses, punishment also is more severe. For the first time, community service has been introduced as one of the punishment in section 4 of the BNS for 6 petty offenses like non-appearance in response to a proclamation, attempt to commit suicide, to compel or restrain lawful power of public servant, petty theft, misconduct by a drunken person, defamation, etc. It introduces the reformative approach in the punishment scheme, which in true meaning can give nyaya to the society. Abatement of an offence committed in India by a person outside India is now an offence. This will surely help criminalize the acts of those who sit outside India and conspire to commit an offence here. There are some good additions now in new act as compared to IPC. First time definition of child is introduced. The like POCSO Act under section 2(3) of BNS, child means any person below the age of 18 years. Section 2, subsection 10 is gender neutral. The pronoun he and its derivatives are used of any person, whether male, female, or very important is transgender, which was not so in IPC. A new offence for having sexual intercourse on false promise of marriage, employment, promotion, or by suppressing the identity, etc., has been created in section 69 of the BNS 2023. Earlier, there were a lot of judgments and there was so much confusion about the consent of the adult woman. But under BNS, this has been added. This should act as deterrent for offenders using deceitful means to obtain consent of the woman and involved in sexual intercourse. Thus, the rights of woman victim will now be protected more efficiently. More stringent punishments are prescribed. Offences of snatching has been introduced in BNS 2023. Till now, the offence of snatching was not there in IPC 1860, which led to a lot of discretion to police to either treat such a cases as theft or robbery. Section 304 of BNS 2023 makes the act of snatching an offence in every part of the country, which punishes act of forcible seizure. The age-based parameter for differential punishment for gang rape of a minor girl below 12 years and then above has been removed in the BNS 2023, and new section 70 subsection 2 prescribes life imprisonment till remainder of that person's natural life or death for gang rape of a woman below the age of 18 years. Another important provision has been inserted in BNS in respect of death caused by negligence. This will address the rising vehicular cases of hit and run. Section 106 subsection 2 is now added, that is, whoever causes death of any person by doing any rash or negligent act and escapes from the scene without informing police or magistrate shall be punished with imprisonment of 10 years and fine. To tackle organized crime and terrorist acts, offence of organized crime and terrorist act have been added in Sanhita with deterrent punishments. Fines in the IPC were very low, ranging from ₹10 to ₹1,000. Similarly, the punishment for various offences also needed rationalization. Now, terms of imprisonment for 33 offences have been suitably enhanced. Fines in 83 cases have been increased, and mandatory minimum punishment has also been introduced in as many as 23 offences. Further, Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Samhita 2023 has replaced Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. This new law prescribes a time limit for the initiation of criminal proceeding, arrest, investigation, filing of charge sheet, and is aimed at speedy delivery of justice and can expect high conviction rate. There is time limit fixed mostly at all stages for concerned officers. It offers a transformative approach in reporting crimes to EFIR. This move will definitely benefit women. Right from case diary, FIR, charge sheet, and judgment, everything would be digitalized, as my speaker said just now. One of the most significant features of BNSS is the introduction of electronic communication and audio-video electronic means for various procedures. It amends provisions on bail, expands the scope of property seizure, and alters powers of police and magistrates. Under the new law, roles and responsibilities of director, deputy director, and assistant director of prosecution, assistant director is now introduced, are more. Under Section 25A of CRPC, Section 20 of BNSS provides clear roles of DOP, DDOP, and ADOP. Now, Director of Prosecution shall monitor cases in which offences are punishable for 10 years or more with life or with death to expedite the proceedings. The powers and functions of Deputy Director of Prosecution shall be to examine and scrutinize police reports and monitor the cases in which offences are punishable for 7 years or more, but less than 10 years. Though presently, when after the investigation is over, before filing of charge sheet, opinions of Director of Prosecution and the prosecutor and the directorate was sought. But with this new law, minute monitoring of investigation will now be possible for Director of Prosecution under the law during investigation stage. Coming to Bharatiya Sakshya Bill 2023, it retains most of the provisions of Indian Evidence Act, like admissible evidence, proved facts, police confession, but there are some key changes proposed in this BSB, which includes documentary evidence includes, under the IEA, document includes writing, maps, and caricature. The BSB adds that electronic or digital records will also be considered as documents. Documentary evidence includes primary and secondary evidence. Primary evidence includes the original document and its parts such as electronic records and video recordings, and secondary evidence contains documents and oral accounts that can prove the contents of the original. Use of technology is now envisaged in all stages, from EFIR to investigation to submission of documents to trials. Further, compulsory forensic examination in all cases where offence attracts punishment of 7 or more years is introduced. It has been provided that in offences prescribed in imprisonment for 7 years or more, police officers shall cause forensic expert to visit the crime scene to collect forensic evidence. This you will hear in detail in panel discussion on this topic in the afternoon session. The definition of evidence has been expanded to any information given electronically. This will permit appearance of witnesses, accused, experts, and victims through electronic means. This will ease the process of trial, prevent delays in transporting accused from prisons to court, and also help in preserving the trial process for future reference that may be necessitated during challenges in higher courts. Since law provides for recording statement of witnesses by audio-video means, the delays will be prevented and speedy justice will be possible. So no need of tariff pe tariff. Secondly, as you know, a joint trial refers to the trial of more than one person for the same offence. The Indian Evidence Act states that in a joint trial, if a confession made by one of the accused, which also affects other accused, is proven, it will be treated as a confession against both. The BSB adds an explanation to this provision. It states that a trial of multiple persons, when an accused has responded or has not responded to an arrest warrant, will be treated as a joint trial. I understand it will be a challenge to adopt these changes made in 3 main laws governing the nearly 150 years old criminal justice system, but good change is always welcome. This is concerning Indianness, Indian Constitution, and people of India for better India. Let's all bear up to face this big change for a total new justice system in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call upon Shri Omveer Singh Bishnoi, IPS, to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. As a cop, I always profess the religion, and police has only one religion. That is Paritrana Sadhunam. And theory till date has forgotten the second part. That is Vinasha Chatuskratam. If a police officer cannot vanish the dustas, then he is not a police officer. If we cannot give justice to a law-abiding citizen, then again we fail. Police has always been a challenging profession since the inception of the society. We have always been criticized by all and sundry, and we will continue to be criticized by all and sundry. But I am happy that with this new law, the digital evidence has to be admitted. Society has always evolved. The best is that the human came into existence from the unicellular to the multicellular. Theory of Darwin. But our Vedas says, yes, the theory of evolution is not 200-year old. It is over 10,000 years old. When the first avatara, you say that the evolution started from the water. So our first avatar was Matsya. And we evolved to the human avatar, that is Rama and Krishna. So police is also evolving. Till date, there was no definition of terrorism. Policing is not always done by the mind. It has to be, and it has been done by the heart also. At times, we have to go extra miles, extra constitutional. As a field corps, from the 3 generations, my generations have witnessed fires encounter first with the dacoits, then it came to the terrorists, and now the third category is evolving, that is the organized crime. Terrorism was also an organized crime, but it was never defined in any law. With these new laws, terrorism and organized crime has come into existence. The books will be available to all of you. With one click away, you have sections, definitions, and commentary on all the sections of the law, be it BNS, BNSS, or Saksha dealing. But something has to come from the heart. Whenever there is a change, police officers are always suspicious. How will we cope with the new law? How we will do the encounters when it is really needed in the society? Only Paritrana Sadhunam will not be sufficient introduce order in the society. Unless and until we have Vinashacha Duskritam, society will be incomplete. A victim whose father or mother has been killed, a victim whose modesty has been outraged, will always remain in trauma till the last breath of his or her life. So I am telling you, it will be difficult to have encounters like the one we have seen in Hyderabad, the one I have done in Meerut, where I was in the jungles of the Uttaranchal and the fields of sugarcane. A doctor who was treating the patients was kidnapped for ransom. Do you think the laws really can take the trauma of that doctor who was kidnapped and every day the police was being sent one or other part of his body to the district SP office? If I take it with mind alone, I cannot do justice to the victim. It has to come from the heart. Every police officer doesn't have a sound heart. I confess it, I admit it. But it is only a few percentage of the society, those who bear the true heart. So the same will be borne by the police. We are coming from the society itself. We have not been sent from any other part of the universe. So if we are good, then the society is good. If we are bad, definitely we are coming from the society and society is bad. One good thing, since society is evolving and tomorrow's crime will be the cyber crime only, predominated by the cyber criminals. And cyber criminals doesn't have any boundary. Fortunately, the government of India thought it and it has been brought into an organized crime. Many of you must have seen a video documentary on NDTV India where the cyber criminals had ransacked people sitting in the America, Europe, and from where they were doing, from the smallest possible village of backward states, so-called backward states. Truly, one day I was reading Satya Nadella, who said that the college degrees will become irrelevant in the era of AI. I do not know whether all of you will be jobless or not. But yes, technology is evolving. Punishment is there. But how to bring the international culprit to your land is a huge challenge. Cyber thugs who are sitting either in China or in the log states will flourish more and more. It's a challenge to all of us. But let me tell you one thing. Please profess one sentence of mine in life and also to your near and dears. All the cyber crimes begin from the greed. All the cyber crime, I repeat, begins from the greed in human mind. Whether it is a criminal or the victim of the cyber crime. So we need to educate ourselves, our family members, our peers. Unless and until we are educated, we'll continue to face cyber crimes. See, the doctors, police officers, professors, everyone is falling into the prey of the cyber criminal. Why? Because there is somewhere greed in the back of our mind. We need to overcome it. बहुत सारे पुलिस ऑफिसर्स जो दिल से सोचते हैं मेरे जैसे, वो बहुत चिंतित हैं इन नए कानूनों से. Why? I'm telling you the truth. Encounters have already vanished from the police society. Why? Because of the digital age. Everyone in the society is having death trap in their hands for the police officers. Encounters done by me in the 20th were very simple. I do not know whether I should tell it to the house or not. When I was in the operation cell of Delhi police, my first encounter was with the Pakistani terrorists. Not one, but they were two. We had limited information. I hope it is interesting for you. I have many stories. I may be digressing from the subject, but definitely it will help those who may enter into the police service. All my young officers who are sitting in the uniform with me. We have definite information. In the 1999 aftermath of Kabul masjid or mosque demolition, there was sentimental problem in the minority community. And I will not blame them. It was the media and the intellect who were blaming the entire society. So I had definite information that they are having sophisticated armories with them. And we were just having कार्बाइन. कार्बाइन ठहरती नहीं है AK-47 के सामने. और टेररिस्ट के लिए या क्रिमिनल्स के लिए हम एक ऑब्जेक्ट हैं. अगर वो 4 आदमी पुलिस के मर जाते हैं तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. लेकिन अगर पुलिस की क्रॉस फायरिंग में एक आदमी मरता है तो पुलिस को भी तकलीफ होती है. ऐसा नहीं है कि पुलिस खुश हो जाती है. 97 का कनाट प्लेस एनकाउंटर सबको ख्याल होगा. आई वाज जस्ट ए प्रोफेशनल एट दैट टाइम. मिस्टेकन आइडेंटिटी से कमिश्नर ऑफ पुलिस दिल्ली को जाना पड़ा था, जो बहुत ही ब्रेव ऑफिसर. एंड राइटली सो. परित्राणाय साधूनाम. भाई साधु का आप परित्राण करने के लिए हो, आपने उसको किल कैसे कर दिया. लेकिन मैं अपना एग्जांपल बोलता हूं. 1 जनवरी 1995 को मेरा बड़ा भाई, अगेन ए ब्रेव पुलिस ऑफिसर, 12 किडनैपिंग फॉर रैंसम के लिए बत्रा हॉस्पिटल के मालिक के ग्रैंडसन को रेस्क्यू करने गया. In the encounter, he lost his life. He not only lost his life, but all 3 officers who were with him were succumbed to the injury in the brutal conflict. Till date, Batras have not returned to my brother's family to know their welfare. That is the true plight of a Dildar officer. और जब स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने गैलेंट्री मेडल उनको रिकमेंड किया चारों डिफेंस ऑफिसर्स को, द गैलेंट वाज डिनाइड बाय द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम. इट वाज अ सेटबैक टू द सोसाइटी, सेटबैक टू द फैमिली. लेकिन दिलदार ऑफिसर मरते नहीं हैं. मेरे फादर ने मुझे नौकरी छोड़ने के लिए कहा पुलिस में, मैं तो आज भी पुलिस में हूं। और उसके बाद मैंने ये काम छोड़ा नहीं। मेरे जीवन में 9 एनकाउंटर्स मुझे फेस करने पड़े, जिसमें मैंने भी अपने साथियों को खोया है। मेरे भी शरीर में 3 बुलेट इंजरीज हैं, उसके बावजूद भी मैं आयरन मैन कर रहा हूं। 2017 के किडनैपिंग फॉर रैंसम का अवार्ड मुझे 2021 में मिला। तो गैलेंट्री से मुझे नहीं नवाजा गया, मेरे बाप को नवाजा गया, जिसका एक बेटा अपने 4 साथियों के साथ 1 जनवरी 1995 से भेंट कर रहा। मैं अपने पुलिस ऑफिसर्स को यह कहना चाहता हूं कि सैक्रिफाइस कभी खाली नहीं जाता। गुड डीड्स वी मस्ट डू, वी मस्ट कंटिन्यू टू डू गुड डीड्स। अवार्ड्स, रिवार्ड्स हमेशा मिलो। Those who are sitting in front of me, young students, आप ही की तरह से मैं हॉस्टल से अपने घर जा रहा था। मतलब ये कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है खून में होता है। जब मुझे 20 साल बाद मेरे फेलो स्टूडेंट ने तब याद दिलाया, 25 साल बाद जब मुझे गैलेंट्री मिला, तो हमारे सामने जाती हुई बस में आग लग गई। एक नियर बाई पॉइंट था, हमारी बस पीछे रुक गई और मुझे नहीं पता लगा कि मुझे क्या हुआ। मैं पॉइंट के अंदर गया, कूदा और बस के अंदर जाकर के पत्थर लेकर के सारी खिड़कियां तोड़ के लोगों को बाहर निकाला। Today I will say that was the real gallantry. अभी तो हमारे पास AK-47 भी है, MP5 भी है, तब तो एक पत्थर भी। So many of you must have done some gallant in your life, but they remain unrecognized. एक गैलेंट मैं आपसे मांगूंगा सभी से, वो है टू हेल्प द एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम्स। पानी पी लो थोड़ा सा। It is getting too bored, just wait. You are ready. पुलिस ऑफिसर के जीवन में ना कहानियां ही होती हैं, चाहे वो पुलिस ऑफिसर हो या आर्मी ऑफिसर। यूनिफॉर्म में सिर्फ कहानी होती है, और जो कुछ साल के बाद लोग बिलीव करना ही बंद कर रहे हैं। We all have short memories. जो सबसे अच्छा, the best part in the new law, सजा से न्याय की ओर जो कंसेप्ट है, from punishment to justice. अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम को छोड़ के चला जाता है, हिट एंड रन केस, वो एक बड़ा अपराध हो गया। तो पहले कोई अपराधी नहीं, पुलिस के पास वेर विदाउ नहीं थी, हमारे पास ये मोबाइल मशीन नहीं आई थी। मैं एडवांटेज दे रहा हूं बहुत सारी चीजों का, ताकि हमारे जो विदेशी भाई हैं उनको चीजें समझ में आए। So all of you must take a pledge today. Then only this conference, I'll call it a success. And the pledge is to help the victims. आज सोसाइटी कैसी हो गई है, इंडियन सोसाइटी, आप देखते हैं कि किसी को 25 चाकू मारे जाते हैं, लेकिन जनता सिर्फ खड़ी रहती है। बंदा डूब रहा होता है, लोग वीडियो बना रहे हैं, और who is attacking one person and others will think, not me, why should I bother? Somebody is dying on the road and the road users think it's not me. आप कहोगे अपनी मैं बहुत तारीफ करता हूं। मैंने ऐसे ही एक एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम को उठा करके हॉस्पिटल पहुंचाया, तो डिफेंस एडवोकेट के यही सवाल थे कि वो आप ही ने किया। But these questions will not be asked from you after the inception of new law. Technology is evolving, so we need to evolve ourselves. Enough is enough. Will you promise me to help the victims henceforth? Sound is coming from the head. Will you promise me to help the victims now? That's it. If this promise is proved tomorrow, I will treat it as Vinashaya. Second part must be completed. Age-old shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. None other than Krishna told it. And this is the definition of the uniform. So is the definition for every law-abiding citizen. Thank you very much.
I now request Professor Stephen Barnes to say a few words.
Namaste. I'm very honored to be here in what has become my home country. And the reason why I say that, I have a USA passport, but I've been to India maybe 20 or 22 times over the last 10 years. I've spent more time in India over the last 5 years than I have in my own home country, United States. And it's truly an honor to be here in Goa. This is my second visit in about 10 months. And I'm very impressed that we are here in a place that used to be a veterinarian hospital, as I understand it. Is that correct? But 3 years ago, this was a veterinary hospital. And now it's a National Forensic Science and University campus, which is one of a kind anywhere in the world. I lived in China for 8 years as a lawyer, professor, and a director. And I went through the entire growth of China. China could not have accomplished what NFSU has done at its peak. The United States no way could do this in 5 or 10 years. And that's why I say the future of the world is here in India, because India has the vision, has the resources to accomplish things that most other countries in the world cannot do. And I say this from the heart. I say this as the oldest person on the stage from observation. So it's truly an honor for me to be here. The reason why I'm here, I would call it in your terms, the chain of custody. I'm not a criminal, but it's the chain of custody from meeting people. I firstly met Dr. N. almost 9 years ago. He then introduced me to my sister from a different mother, Curti in Ahmedabad. I was later introduced to Dr. Chodhary, then introduced to Dr. Chauhan, and I'm introduced to the students. So I am a blessed recipient of the chain of custody here in India. When Dr. Chodhary and Dr. Chauhan, they asked for me to speak at this conference, it was a topic that was so nebulous, so complicated in digital and the new reforms under the Indian criminal code, the IPC. I told him immediately, I am unqualified. I would love to be here, but I am completely unqualified. But then I gave it some thought, and I told him, I said, you're asking a pediatrician to go in the operating room with neurosurgeons, and you're telling me to give me a scalpel. But I gave it some further thought, and I've developed, hopefully, something that you can learn from this afternoon when we speak. That has to do with democracy, elections, and forensic sciences. So it may not be exactly on topic, but I'm going to be at about 30,000 feet on an Indian flight from Delhi to Frankfurt. I want to give you an overview of what I think the opportunities and challenges are. Forensic sciences in the case of electioneering and also for democracy more generally. When I speak this afternoon, well, today, right now, I'm speaking from the heart. But I was, this afternoon, I'll transition, I'll speak from something I know something about constitutional law, and then I'll transition to something I know very little about, forensic science. And I think you should look at me as being a laboratory rat. You should look at me as an observer who sees the potential of forensic sciences from a non-expert. But I will tell you that what I learned mostly from common people. I am grateful to have been introduced to the Bhagavad Gita 15 years ago. And I read it frequently, several times a week, and every day when I'm in India. What I learned most about from India are the drivers of the car drivers. My wife and I, we are staying in North Goa, which is an hour and 45 minutes away. Full disclosure, my wife, she's Norwegian. She loves yoga. If she has a chance to come to Goa, she's the happiest person in this world. And so this morning she said, hey, love, I'm so sorry that you have to take an hour and 45-minute cab ride to South Goa. I said, no, I'm going to learn a lot. I will learn more in the hour and 45 minutes from my cab driver than I would learn in a textbook reading about India over 2 or 3 weeks. And this is how I look at it. My cab driver is Sri Krishna. And I am sitting in the chariot and I'm Arjuna. And so I have so many questions and so many doubts. And I asked Sri Krishna, I'm very sorry, but before we go to battle, meaning coming to NFSU, I have a lot of questions I want to ask him. He said, sir, please ask me any question you want. And I said, well, let's get something clear. My name is not Sir, my name is Sajit. He said, do you have a name, sir, Sajit? And I said, yes, my name is Sajit Patel. He says, how did you get that name? I said, I've been to Ahmedabad so many times that my students, I asked them to give me a name. He said, well, how did you get that name? And I told them, you students take a vote in the class, this is the NFSU last year, and give me a name. And they said, sir, do you have a preference? And I said, I want to be a Patel because Patel means you're from Gujarat. I said, you choose the first name. They said, well, I think you're Sajit. And I go, what does Sajit mean? Because you're happy and you're joyous, and I'm satisfied with that name, so now I'm Saji Patel. So anyway, today, Saji Patel, also known as Arjuna, and I say respect, I'm not saying anything disrespectful. I'm in this cabin, this park, from North Goa to South, if we want to call this area South Goa. And I'm asking Sri Krishna, his name is his local name is Ravi, and here's what I learned. There are 3 boys in his family. He's the middle son. His eldest brother is named Krishna, his name is Ravi, and the younger brother is named Satush. Now, if I understand it correctly, Krishna, we know what that means. Ravi means son, S-U-N, am I correct? And Satush, I believe, means satisfied. And I told my Sri Krishna, I said, I am the eldest son of my parents, and I know how the pecking order works. There's the king, who's the eldest, the prince, who's the youngest, and the middle gets nothing. And I think there's some middle children here. You know what I'm saying. He said, yes, sir, that's exactly right. But in the context what I want to share with you today, I think there's an advantage about being the middle child. That you learn from vertical mistakes. You learn from the mistakes from your elders, and you learn from the mistakes of the younger. So there's an advantage about sitting in the middle seat. And I would suggest to you that India is in that wonderful position of sitting in the middle seat. You've seen these emerging democracies, or the elder democracies, from the United States or the UK with all of their problems. And you also, well, let's call them the elder brothers. And let's face it, they're in decline. They are in decline. And that's a 5-alarm message that I'll talk about today. And then you see these emerging democracies, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Poland, Ukraine, or even the case of Russia, which I say was the failing younger brother. So India has that unique perspective. We sit in the middle seat as that middle child to say, what are the things I can learn from these elder brothers or elder sisters? What can we do to avoid those mistakes? What are those things that they've done maybe okay that we can adopt here in India? And then you can look backward to your younger brother, your younger sister, your younger sibling and say, we're going to avoid that. We're not going to do it that way. So I put it to you that India is in an enviable position. I look forward to visiting with you today, and I will just give you a forewarning. I think I've been allocated 20 or 25 minutes. I'll be talking about constitutional law for 20 minutes, and you might say, what is this crazy guy doing here talking about constitutional law? Well, this is a Forensic Sciences University. There's a large intersect. So I beg you to hold on to the last 5 minutes of my conversation with you, because that is going to be the essence. And I think that is the challenge when it comes to forensic sciences. I have only 2 final thoughts. I very much enjoyed listening to Sri Vishnu, and I'm sorry he's not here for me to share this with you. He talked about how India police officers, or at least in Goa, or that's the aspiration, is to police from the head and from the heart. He also said a few times that the India police are criticized, right? Remember he said that? That is a very good problem. Being able to criticize the police is a very good problem. In most of the countries where I travel, police cannot be criticized. Whatever we do in life, especially police officers, we represent the people. We, generically the police. The police have to be criticized. They also must be complimented. But we don't want to live in a system, and I don't need to list the countries, where police cannot be criticized. That's called freedom of speech. That's called freedom of press. And I would suggest to you that comes with policing from the head and the heart. You're always going to be subject to criticism. And I would say that's a very, very good problem. Because the countries where I spend a lot of my time criticizing the police, criticizing the government, it's verboten. We can't do it. And those societies will never progress at the rate of India. It's the reason why you were able to transform a veterinary hospital to the National Forensic Sciences University in that 2 or 3 years. That's the kind of society we've either chosen or God blessed us to live in this kind of a place. But criticism is good. We don't want to live in a place with criticism, but we also have to live with our compliments and our props. My final comment is this, and please forgive me if I cross the line when I say this. Because we live in an area in India, we live in a country where we can share our thoughts. Doesn't mean we're correct, doesn't mean we're wrong, we can share our thoughts. India, the United States, North Korea, China, Somalia, Iran, and 2 other countries are the remaining countries in the world that enforce the death penalty. I hope that there are learners here today who will take note of it. I believe that the United States and India can do much better than that. It's been proven by technologists and sociologists that although it is punishment, there's no deterrent value, there's no economic value. And I think especially in a country like India, in which all are welcome, where people refer to each other as brothers and sisters, it's hard for me to imagine that the death penalty would still be on the books, the IPC or the Constitution 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now. Because we are all brothers and sisters. And it goes against, I think, the ethos of India. So I really hope that you will challenge that. This, me speaking as a foreigner or a Martian from outer space, but I hope you'll also take it in the spirit of a person who calls himself, or who's now called Sati Patel. I think that is something that we can do better. So I thank you very much once again, Dr. Torari, for the pleasure to be here. And I also want to acknowledge in the chain of custody, Dr. Rao. I was there in 2018 when he received the distinguished award in Delhi. And Dr. N. Menon, the father of modern legal education, whom I understand, he explained to me he started the National Law University in Bangalore in what would have been the size of a garage, with 16 pupils who won an international moot court only 2 years later. So I feel the presence of Dr. N. Menon sitting next to one of the most distinguished jurists in the world, Dr. Rao. I have no business sitting next to him. I should be sitting in the back row. I feel with Dr. Menon's sitting next to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I now request our Chief Guest, Professor Dr. R. Venkata Rao, to address the gathering.
I would say Sabhaya Namaha. It's a privilege and honor for me to have been called upon to associate myself with this seminal function, and I get to thank you all. It's a good honor in that this workshop was conceptualized and the invitation was extended to us. The date of enforcement of the acts was not known to any one of us. Okay. We were all groping in the dark as to from which state the act will come into force. But just 72 hours ago, we got the information that the act will be coming into force from 1st of July. That means the organizers have the best of intention. And now the act will be coming to force from 26. And 26 February is a date on which one of the greatest reformers of criminal justice system over the world was born. Victor Hugo of France. Some of you must have heard his name, Victor Hugo. He was born on 26th February. And the inspector of the police was speaking about the responsibility for all of us to help the victim. I was reminded of a revered senior IPS officer, Yash Venugopal, late lamented Venugopal, who always used to say, a democratic polity will be successful when two conditions are fulfilled. What are those two conditions? When every citizen believes that he is a policeman without uniform, and every policeman believes that he is a citizen with uniform. When the policeman believes that he is a citizen with uniform, and citizens believe that they are policemen without uniform, the polity will work. That's what he was really. In my role as chief guest, I'm not going to touch anything about these important legislations that have been made. We should put down our heads before the government of India for having taken that initiative. Because in the panel discussion, everything would be laid that way to you. We're already running behind by 1 hour 10 minutes. And therefore, I just to give you the backdrop and the range set of questions, focusing on the youngsters as to what has necessitated the overhaul of these systems. The first question that I raise is, on one side, there is a question, is there a crisis of confidence in the institutions which we have built? The institutions could be police, the institution could be judiciary, the institution could be democratic structures. Second question is, are we forcing the people to take recourse to extra legal measures to settle their disputes? If the answer is yes, it's put at the point line. Okay, who is to be blamed? The third one is there effective coordination among the four facets of the administration of criminal justice? Because social scientists long ago said, you can tell to what extent a society is civilized by looking at the functioning of the administration of criminal justice. And in India, today's scenario, is it fact-finding or fault-finding? Do you have proper coordination among the four facets? Investigation, prosecution, courts, correctional institutions, and the most important one, aftercare and the society. Do you have proper coordination among these five things? How to ensure that coordination? And the next one is, for any system to be successful, law needs to be updated and law needs to be less technical. All our laws updated, and is no way to update the law. Okay. Are they still technical? These are the issues that youngsters should understand. And the most important thing is to understand is, in a democratic polity, lawmaking is a slow, grinding process. Technology moves at an exponential pace, and law will be always at least 2 decades behind technology. Because it is only dictatorial setup that lawmaking is fast, but it is developed. Therefore, when lawmaking is slow, how to make it more effective? And the last question is, when criminals are taking advantage of technology, should state remain a new spectator. This is one side. The other side, the first question that I raise is, technology should be taken advantage of, there is no doubt. But should it be at the cost of justice? Should it be at the cost of human beings? Sometimes the Supreme Court asks this question. The second question is, should our relationship with technology undermine humanity? As somebody said, if Rousseau were to come today, who said man is born free but he is a believer in chains during the time of French Revolution, he would today say man is born free but he is a believer in digital chains. So, are we robotized? Are we living in an age of artificial intelligence and natural stupidity, as some people said? Is artificial intelligence overtaking us? And then the constitutional contours, because our Home Minister has said the focus in these three legislations is on the Indian Constitution and the well-being of the people. These are the three goals. What lofty goals? Indian net and Indian Constitution. But the same Constitution says you cannot self-incriminate. There is protection against self-incrimination. Then, the Selby's decision by Supreme Court of India, the so-called macro analysis, polygraph, testimonial compulsion, do they go against liberty? And in the name of liberty, can we sacrifice the security of the society? These are the very interesting dilemmas that haunt us. And therefore, you cannot have definite solutions to these things. And the last point I wanted to say, Madam was referring to Indian Evidence Act and a new Evidence Act. I had the opportunity to work with former Chief Justice of Ponda High Court, Justice Manimat, who submitted the Manimat Committee report. He always used to say this question is to be examined by all of us. There is nowhere in the Evidence Act a rule that it is the duty of the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt the guilt of the accused. Nowhere. You have incorporated that principle because the colonial hangover from the common law doctrine. Therefore, because of overemphasis of excessive burden on the prosecution, do you have low rate of conviction, which is resulting in the lack of confidence? Has time come for us to switch over to preponderance of evidence as is found in civil cases? Why not that? There is already reversal of one burden of proof and other things. These are some issues I wanted to raise as the chief guest before I come back again in the panel discussion to speak to you about the diverse and varied contours of the three emerging laws. Let me tell you, hats off to Government of India for having wonderful legislation. We were all waiting. And as the Home Minister has rightly said, in 5 years, when systems are firmly put in place, this is the best criminal justice system criminal in the world. Such a wonderful changes that are made, and there is a total bottom-up. So I'll come back to you again in panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your words truly inspire us. I would like to call our respected director, Professor Naveen Kumar Chaudhary, to deliver the keynote address on digitizing justice, elevating credibility.
India International University of Higher Education and Research, Goa. Professor Stephen Vance, in Penn State Law School, USA. Srimati Poonam Brahmane, Director. Invited police officer. Invited police officer. Officers from military, professor and medical legal expert, Dr. Franco. So, at the outset, and my dear students, faculty members and students, so at the outset, why this workshop is relevant, why it is important for us, why technology and forensics is the theme of this workshop. So if you look at it, what is happening in India? I'll just give you a gist what is happening in India. And if you keep track of the latest happenings and how it affects all of us, or even the international community, because India is one of the countries which is always looked up by our international partners, and we believe in strengthening. And when India gets strengthened, it's not only India gets strengthened, it also strengthens the other community and other countries of the world which has a similar issues like India. We have come a long way. It has been more than 75 years since independence. And what we used to call Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Now, after 75 years, we are now calling it Amrit Kal. So this 75 to 100 years is going to be a Amrit Kal for us, because we have set to achieve certain things in this next 25 years. And when I say you have set to achieve certain things, you have set certain objectives. Government has set certain objectives. And that objective can only be fulfilled if our laws, our governance is citizen-centric, not government-centric. It's a democratic country. But unfortunately, the three criminal laws we had in India, if you look at it, Indian Penal Code, Bharatiya Danda Sanhita. So as the name suggests, this is to punish. The aim of the criminal justice delivery is not to punish. They are our citizens. If they have done something wrong, then there has to be, first of all, we have to deliver the justice. And once we have delivered the justice, then we will see that what sentence to be awarded. Okay? But you look at the name what the Britishers have given, Indian Penal Code, Criminal Procedure Code. Okay. A person is guilty or not. Okay. Leave it to investigation. Leave it to the prosecution. But the name itself, Penal Code, Criminal Procedure Code. Okay. So that somehow doesn't gel with the democratic values we hold. Now, we have to have our criminal justice delivery system in line with the values of our constitution, in line with the rights that the Constitution of India ensures for all the citizens. Okay. But if you would have looked at the three criminal laws, and some of you, of course, the police persons are taught the legal aspects, even in our curriculum, some portions of legal aspects we have. So if you look at these three criminal laws, the old laws, not the current one, you would have found a lot of references of, that the Crown Provincial Act, notifications of the Crown Representative, London Gazette, Jury and Barristers, Lahore Government, Commonwealth Resolutions, Great Britain as well as Ireland Parliament. This is India. We have to speak in terms of our, our legal perspective. But there were a lot of references were of those countries which had no bearing on our current perspective, let it be criminal or let it be legal. Okay. So other thing which I want to highlight here, that this was not only indicated the signs of slavery, which you know, okay, but these three laws were passed by the British Parliament, and we had adopted them. Now, when we talk of the Samrit Kaal, when we speak of Samradh Bharat, prosperous Bharat, we speak of Vikassheel Bharat, and when we speak of Bharat being a Vishwa Guru, okay, where we stand? If we still, cut and paste those laws that are not framed keeping the aspirations of our own people, own citizens. And second thing, and one more thing I would like to highlight here, if some of you have gone through the new laws, I had a privilege to go through because I was also part of the panel which gave the input. My input was more technical and forensics in nature. And also I had a to present my views before the Standing Committee of Home Affairs in the Parliament of India. I was invited by the Parliament to give my views on the three laws. So, you'll be surprised to know that as a human being, what would be, heinous things we consider? Crime against human body, okay, murder, rape. But if you see these laws, these three old laws, these things came much later. Okay, and what were the things which were given priority? Treason, crime against, property, government property, because these were the priority of the then colonial government. And their concerns were not the crime against human body, crime against women, crime against children. So we have to understand that they are our people, they are our citizens, and that's why these three laws have been made keeping the Indian mindset. That's why, and that was the main reason. Now, second thing, if you look at the thing like conviction rate, we have a policing, we have a judiciary. Policing has its own set of protocols, judiciary has its own set of protocol, but then cases linger. By the time charge sheet is, sometimes you see, fine, you present a charge sheet, then the magistrate starts, trial. But if somebody is not guilty and he is put behind the bar, okay, and even the system who has to take care of him, it is taking so much of time that the common man, he has no option. He is just languishing in the jail, and the system is taking its own time. You have to bring somewhere a transparency and accountability. When people say, even 100, guilty, or the people who have done the crime, if they are acquitted, but there is no person who has not committed the crime, who is not guilty, he should be punished. Okay? But at the same time, I say, why don't you have a technology and methodologies and best practices that no criminal is acquitted and no person who is not a guilty he should be put into the jail. Okay, this is only possible if you have sound criminal laws and then with the adoption of the technology. Why the adoption of the technology? A lot of things have changed. The way our life has changed because of the adoption of the technology. And then a lot of scientific methods have come for the investigation of the crime. So now the adoption of the technology as well as the scientific methods are also equally important. So now when I say a technology, how these technologies are adopted in these three criminal laws. So first of all, when you start at the crime scene, okay, just take the example when you start at the crime scene. Now everything has to be videographed. Why you need to videograph everything? Because you all depend on whatever the documentation has been made, the list of inventory that has been recovered from the crime scene. But sometimes you are human. Sometimes you have institutional memory. And what happens if there is any gap? So what will happen then? So let it be recorded. Let the video recording of the entire crime scene be done. Let all the inventory be listed. And then that will become, because now the technology is available. What's wrong into that? And then it will augment the effort of the forensic experts and well as first responder. It will act as a force multiplier. Okay? And there will be no chances of human omission. Now, the accused is in the police custody. Police is running out of time. Now they have to produce the accused to before the magistrate within 24 hours, and sometimes it is not possible. Now provision has been incorporated that they can take the further custody or they can produce the accused through the video conference, over the video conferencing to the magistrate. So this provision has been incorporated. See, other thing I will just tell you that so much of effort goes into bringing the accused to the court during the trial, and why that proceeding can be conducted from the prison itself. If some statements are required, why not? So let the video conferencing be there, and the accused should not come every time to the court. Entire paraphernalia of the police has to be activated, officer has to be placed, vehicle has to be guarded, and then if it is a high-profile criminal, then you need some extra security measures. You have to beef up the security, and every time it has its own vulnerabilities. Okay, some cases are very sensitive, and certain things happens in the court itself when you bring the accused to the court. So why to create that kind of situation when you have a video conferencing? I cite many examples. People commit crime in India, they commit fraud in India, and they take fugitive in Africa. And they stay in a big palace, enjoy best of the food and drinks, share their photos on social media, and then it puts a big question mark. What the judiciary is doing, what the law enforcement agency is doing, what the government is doing. Now all these fugitives who are declared fugitive by the session court will be tried in absentia through the technology, with the help of the technology. He can't now evade the criminal justice delivery setup we have in this country. He may be in London or he may be anywhere in some Caribbean countries, but his trial will be completed his trial will be completed using all the electronic records which we have. Then the definition of digital record, electronic communication has been expanded. Now the electronic communication has been included in the criminal justice delivery system, because earlier the delivery was of a summon was a big headache, and most of the time some seasoned criminals, they never, they always evaded taking summons. Now the summons can be delivered through electronic means, and that's why the definition of the electronic communication has been expanded. Okay. Now there were cases when people avoided taking summons, and judiciary has a procedure. Someone has to be duly served, and then he has to be given adequate opportunity. And this fellow is not taking summons. Adult member is not taking summons. Okay, in the home. Ultimately, you put a poster there, or you put a poster at a thana or anywhere. But ultimately, someone has not been served. Okay. But in this entire process, so much of time is wasted. So now, electronic means are available. When I was called for discussion, in India, maybe 20%, only 20-30% people have emails. And most of the people, if they commit the crime, they know first thing which they have to do. The seasoned criminals, they have to break the phone, destroy the SIM card. So how you are going to serve the SIM? Someone with the, this on the broken SIM cards or these things. Okay, but then there are tools, there are technology, you convince them. There are cases when people avoided someone and he, took fugitive in other country, and then he was, surfacing again and again, showing off on a social media. But someone was not served to him because he has absconded and taken a fugitive in another. Now, who stops you? You have the complete process in place, wherein if he avoids taking someone on email, wherein if he avoids taking someone on SMS messages, you have IVRS now. A 30-second IVRS message is suffice. आपको समन सर्व किया गया है, आपको पटियाला कोर्ट दिल्ली में 10:30 पर पन्ना तारीख को भेज दो. समन has been served. But then mindset, it took a lot of time, but then it could be easily served. Even if he's on a Sada phone, that feature phone, he's not using a smartphone, technology is available now. If it's not on WhatsApp, it can be easily served. Okay. Then the other issue was, one thing is investigation, another thing is proceedings, and then issuance of the order. Okay. So here, even the laws, even if you look at the way we do the investigation, we focus more towards, the accused. But what about the victim? Okay, what about the victim? So now provisions have been brought into the law, wherein, especially in the cases of, sexual offences and others, the victim evidence will be audio video recorded. Okay, why it is important? Because you have to also see what is the opinion or what is the statement of the victim. You can't just go one-sided. Accused is important, but you have to also look into the sentiment and concerns of the victim. So the victim's audio video record need to be maintained now. Even a simple thing like snap parade, identification parade. Okay, there are many issues where disabled people during the, there were issues during the snap parade of the disabled people. Now technology is available. Why to get into any, issue? Now it has been made mandatory to record the Shinak parade, identification parade through a audio video recording. Okay. Now, other thing which we have to understand about these laws is that who all were concerned while making these laws. So when you see inputs of 18 states, 6 union territories, Honorable Supreme Court, 16 High Courts, 5 judicial academies, 22 law universities, including National Forensic Sciences University, 142 member of parliament, and 270 MLAs. Their inputs were taken because they gave the suggestion. Their inputs were taken, and then 158 consultation meetings were held over 4 years. It was not just, that these laws have come in a one day. So a lot of consultation have gone into it. Now what we want ultimately the technology. I was one of the person who gave some inputs about the technology and other things. Okay. So why we want technology right from registering the case to investigation and then judicial proceedings until issuance of the order. If you look these laws properly, you'll find zero FIR. 75 years, but this was not implemented. Let him register the case anywhere under zero FIR and then shift this case to the concerned thana. Then second thing is EFIR. Sometimes people, take somebody in custody, but they don't inform their next of the kin or relatives. And that's why this concept of a EFIR. Okay? So you have to inform them. Otherwise, sometimes people is picked up in the custody and then they are not informed. So this concept of a EFIR, that you have to inform them and so their relatives know whereabouts of that person, where is he? Is in a police custody or something. So this concept of an EFIR. Even to the extent people were talking about artificial intelligence and blockchain and all. So I just want to tell you that we recommended that even like there are 5 important pillars which are involved in implementing this the new legislative laws. One is police, and there is a big project CCTNS 2. Okay, so we just went through the specifications of that project. One phase of that project has been done. The second phase is due, and then government has sanctioned a lot of money. Then we said, fine, let us have a look at the specification, and then we gave some suggestions to make it compliant with the new criminal law. So what is that compliance with the new criminal law? With the policeman going to a crime scene and he has to make a recording, he should have all the gadgets with him. It should support the requisite bandwidth. The specification of the device should be such. For example, if you have to record a crime scene and then you have to record a crime scene and then you are recording it for half an hour, your device support it or not? Okay. So all those technical things we have taken into care, and then we have recommended that this CCTNS 2 technical specification need to be upgraded, and then we have given to the ministry. But why we did all these things? Because we found that conviction rate in this country is less. And the aim, there are twofold aims. One thing is conviction rate should also go up. It should go up more than 90%. And second thing is that in addition to conviction rate, it should be ensured that justice is delivered to a person within 3 years. It should not be dragged for so many years, and that's why the law expands the digitization of the document to indulge electronic or digital records, electronic documents on your computer, laptop, mobile. Bring your own devices, log. Even I'll just give you one example. The secondary evidences, your digital record which forms part of second. Sometimes you will not be nowadays things have changed totally. Most of the evidences are not on the device. Most of the activity you are doing, your data may be on the cloud. Okay, and that cloud data center may be in some other country. beyond the jurisdiction of India. Okay, so you can't get that data center and produce it before the judiciary. Can you do that? Can you do that? And their country's legal framework may not allow you. Okay, at all. Now, how to handle such situation? And did the old law had anything on this? No, it had nothing on this. So what to do? We have proposed change in the Bharatiya Sakshi Sanhita. The team of the technical experts proposed that change. And what was that change? Now anything on the cloud, you can take it down, and then there is some procedure you need to follow, and then you can produce it as a secondary evidence before the judiciary. Then there was a big business that people did not know what is that 65B. Even they did not know what is that certificate, when it has to be maintained. There was a lot of confusion. And some of the murderers got away because of this. Okay. So now this entire process has been simplified. Now a lot of data is on your social media platform that is provided by your intermediate service providers. What about that data? If it is of evidence value, how to present it before the court? So these all things have been taken care in section 63 of the Bharatiya Sakshi Adhiniyam. Now it all will be proof. Earlier somebody debating, how can I screenshot be a proof? Now screenshot will be a evidence. And no more for getting that certificate, person has to spend 10,000 and 20,000 rupees, and then even it is given in the form of affidavit, and most of the time that certificate had a lot of discrepancy, and then it was trashed in the court of law. Okay. So all these things, digitization has been done. Now your laptop, SMS, websites, locational evidence, mail, messages on device, all these things will form part of your digital record. Okay. So you have to be now, especially the budding forensic scientist, you have to know how to acquire those evidence and produce, because law now permits you. Earlier there were constraints. For example, that 65B was heavily drawn from the UK Evidence Act 1968, which was repealed by them in 1995, because they found it irrelevant. There were a lot of discrepancy. And when we made some changes in our Indian Evidence Act with the promulgation of the IT Act 2000, we adopted it. So then there will be an issue. Somebody has to tell them, this is not right. And we produced all the documents. This is not correct. We have to change it. So those suggestions were given, and these things have been changed. And that is where I will tell you that it is equipping my budding forensic scientists, my budding cyber forensic scientists, and even the police officers have to now, they have a liberty to, take all these evidences. Now you have the provision in the law. You don't have to worry. Now law, SMS, anything on website which you found of the evidence value, and then there is a prescribed format of the certificate that forms part of the schedule of the Bharatiya Sakshi Sanhita. Simply follow that and give it in the court of law. Okay, and then it will be taken care of. So now all this digitization has been done with one single aim in mind, that we should be able to strengthen the criminal justice delivery system. Now another thing which I want to highlight is that accountability part. Okay, so earlier what used to happen, why the scope of electronic evidence has been expanded, why the scope of digital record has been expanded, to help the police to prepare the charge sheet with all the supporting documents. Let it be electronic documents. Nowadays a lot of evidences are available in the form of electronic record. But how long? So they have given the period of 90 days. Your charge sheet should be ready within 90 days. If you want extension, you can go to the magistrate, but magistrate can only give you extension of 90 days. So you can't go beyond 180 days. So you have to learn that how to use the technology. Because earlier, what some of the thanas I visit, some of the interaction I had with the senior police officers, some police officers, some thanas in some states are facing typical challenge. Even medical legal cases, people don't know how to write the diary, how to prepare a charge sheet. Sometimes I have seen that they have hired a retired, their own police inspector, and his work is to only, prepare the charge sheet or, prepare the case diary. Maybe because of the, but then if it is because of the lack of the manpower, fine. But if it is because of the lack of the, competency on the part of the police officer, then there are concerns. Okay. So now we have suggested use artificial intelligence. Okay. Let at the FIR stage itself use artificial intelligence. We have 22 regional languages which are recognized by our Constitution of India. Put NLP there, natural language processing, because I know in many states they are writing FIR in their own languages. There was some cases in the Supreme Court where FIR was written in Tamil, complete. And when it comes to the Supreme Court cases, then you have to translate it, other things. So why? Because what we have proposed here, that digitization, single entry and multiple sharing. So what it means, once you prepare any document, that can be shared with other verticals. But now somebody has prepared a charge sheet, let's say in Tamil, and then this goes up to the higher court, let's say Supreme Court. So how? We don't have to waste the time, It will be shared on the platforms like your e-court and all, and using the NLP, the part of the artificial intelligence, you can have a readily translation of the entire charge sheet available with you. So it will cut down the time. Okay. In the cases of sexual offences, there is a provision when the device moves from one place to another, you have to keep a record. That is nothing but a chain of custody. Okay. So there should be no any integrity when you are moving from one place to another, and then that record one should not tamper with. Why not adapt a blockchain in that? So we are discussing with NIC, NCRB, NFSU is giving a lot of input, things are going to happen. And while we are making all this effort, we are making all this effort to strengthen the criminal justice delivery. Okay. Now, there was another issue, was that, a very interesting thing was that one is accountability and transparency on the part of the law enforcement agency. But what about the transparency and accountability on the part of the judiciary? That is also need to be ensured, because ultimately it has to be citizen centric. So this provisions in the new law permits that you use the electronic anyway, but then you have to, once the charge sheet has been given, you have to heard the cases, and after the hearing the cases in a time frame. That time frame, I'll just share with you what is the time frame which government, that court is bound to now give notice of framing of charge to the accused within 60 days. The honorable court cannot now sit over it. That's why technology. Take the help of the technology, and within 30 days after the completion of the arguments, the honorable judge will have to give verdict and the order to be made online within 7 days. Okay. That's why when I say we want this technology will cut down all the time. Now the police has prepared charge sheet, he will upload to the CCTNS, and then it will be shared to a e-court. So duplication will not be required. An effort has been made by someone and made available to the criminal crime and tracking network. That data will be available to all the stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, who are the stakeholders? Police, court, prosecution, prison, and forensics. And there are, how we are going to digitize it, there is something known as e-court. There is the e-committee of the Supreme Court. With the help of the NIC, they are steering this. Then for the prosecution, we have e-prosecution. Police is working on a CCTNS 2. one phase of the project has been already implemented, wherein all the thanas were given computer and they can do some search record, they can check for some record there using that computer. Now in the second phase, whatever the digitization has to be done, we are also giving them, these small handheld, what you call it, digital devices. They can keep it in their pocket whenever they go to the crime scene, they can record it, everything, all these provisions have been incorporated in CCTNS2. Then there will be applications with AI module, NLP and other things. All the modern technology I spoke about, that will be incorporated in this application. Already CDAC is working. NFSU has been asked to set up one PMU for that. We are helping the CDAC how to achieve the new technologies, how to adopt this technology and implement it in the new applications. Now, Madam has already covered about the legal aspect, which I will not be covering. But then, there were many laws like mob lynching, mobile snatching, chain snatching, which are common in some cities like Delhi and all. Okay, but there were no provisions in law. There were no provisions in law, and I told you one thing which is very, this how I find the entire process is, which also looks into the reform part of it, community service. And I met somebody, a judge had given us community service in a hospital to that person. And, after serving that sentence, he was given a task to, do the cleaning of a hospital and all somewhat. And even after serving the sentence, this person now every day goes to the hospital and he does the mopping of the floor. That is what is the reformation. Okay. So when we say a community service, why this community service? He is not a perpetual offender. He is not a proclaimed offender. But he is not a first timer and he needs to be reformed. And that's why community services. Okay. So there are many, path-breaking provisions have been, I don't want to exceed my time, but many path-breaking provisions have been incorporated in this law. If I start speaking about the technology, it will take 2 to 3 hours. If I go into minute detail, and if I show the slide how we have mapped, and we have found that at least 6 applications are immediately required to be implemented to adopt the technology. Okay, so it will take much of the time, but I'm happy to share a total of 313 changes which have been made in this law will bring a widespread change in our criminal justice system, and anyone will be able to get justice within a maximum of 3 years. That is what this law proposes, and that's what India has done. Once we have adopted the technology, and even the forensic investigation, the visit of forensic expert for all those crimes in which there is a provision of the 7 years or more punishment. The visit of the expert is must. Okay, so here is your future. Okay, there is a requirement of 33,000 forensic experts within next 3 years. Okay, because they have made it mandatory. So now we have 346 students at Goa. Similarly, we have other campuses. How we will get those experts? So your future is going to be bright. Okay, and in the panel discussion, how we will discuss how this is going to be implemented in the next 5 years. But then your future is going to be a bright. And one large, benefit of this law I foresee is whatever India does, the entire global south looks for it. Like we have our unique Aadhaar, digital public infrastructure. And when I go abroad, meet some, attend some forums, there are many countries which have the similar issues like India, and they look for such solutions because our solutions are always very, it's a user-friendly, citizen-centric, citizen-oriented like Aadhaar. Okay, PKI, and how we have made a transformational changes at the grassroots level, using the technology connecting Aadhaar with mobile number and then the bank account and giving the beneficiary at the grassroots level to the common man. Similarly, the changes we have proposed in the law that is going to benefit our own common people. And very soon, mark my word, in the 5 to 10 years, this law will become our role model, and there will be many international partners, especially in Global South, the countries which have a similar problem. They will look up to these documents, to these frameworks to adopt in their country. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for that very insightful session. Dear audience, it is now time for our international guest, Professor Stephen Barnes, to share his thoughts on democracy and elections, why forensics matters. We would like to request all the delegates to move to a occupied.
So, namaste again. This is Steve Sati. Can everyone hear me? Okay. If you're in the back of the room, and you can see the glare of my head, you can probably see me, but I hope you can hear me as well. Okay. So, So I was listening to Dr. Chaudhary speaking about everything that's happening on the ground in India. Very impressive. This is the world's largest democracy. The world's largest democracy, 1.4 billion. Then I hear about the challenges. It's not just one language, it's 22 official languages in the Constitution. And accelerating this timeline. Again, I come back to what other country in the world could do something like this? Not China, not the United States, not India. But only India can do this. I mean, I also want to give, if I might give one small correction to the esteemed scholar, Dr. Chaudhary. He said that this could be a model for the Southeast Asian countries. It will be a model for the rest of the world. Okay, justice is justice. And elsewhere in the world, democracies, they don't look at regions, they look at models. And I think this model will be very, very applicable. Unless I be misunderstood, and I want to make this really clear, when I made my opening remarks about the metaphor of the three siblings, about the elder sibling is kind of like the king, then the middle sibling who kind of gets the leftovers, and then the youngest sibling, the prince, also gets a big share, and the middle brother, the middle sister. And I suggested only that India is in that enviable middle seat. Please don't misunderstand me. India is moving the elder brother off the seat. And this was proof positive today, so please don't even get any misunderstanding me in terms of India's stature. I lived in China for 8 years during the big boom. That time has come and gone. China's opportunity has come and gone. I spent time in Indonesia, I spent time in India, elsewhere here in this neck of the woods, so to speak. This is India's, the next 20 years are India's. And I think that the impact which India will have on the rest of the world, you cannot even imagine, you cannot even, so we're in a smaller place of Goa, in the southeast of India. These models, these lessons learned are being given. So again, I just want to emphasize again, I did not mean any disparagement when I said India's in the middle seat. It has been the middle seat, but now it's kicking out the elder siblings. And the elder siblings better learn very quickly what India is doing if we are going to protect our democracy. I come to you humbly from the United States. I think the United States and India have than any two countries in the world. And that includes Canada and Mexico with regard to the United States, or even the UK. And the reason why is that we're the most diverse countries in the world. There's no such thing as a typical Indian. There's no such thing as a typical American. We cannot profile who we are because the world comes to us. That's who we are. And I speak with humility when I say that the United States has not invented anything. In fact, there's a scholar who said that 2,000 years from now, the United States will only contribute 3 things to world civilization: jazz, baseball, and the Constitution. You look at India's list of contributions to civilization, it goes on pages and pages and pages. But this professor, Dr. Ray, said, no, the United States will contribute 3 things. We're innovators, we're not inventors. Jazz, we stole the cadences and we stole the rhythms and the chords from West Africa through slavery, when almost 6 million West Africans were taken from their homelands, were brought over from the colonists in the 16th, 17th, and 18th century. And these slaves, they lost their freedom, except the freedom of music and voice when they worked in the fields. And that later became improvised into jazz. So that came from West Africa. Jazz, I know that most of you love the sport called cricket. Most of you. And I know that if you were playing Pakistan right now in cricket, nobody would be here. Fair assumption? Well, baseball, we kind of borrowed and stole some of the rules of cricket. We made it shorter to kind of fit the American. So that was an innovation. The US Constitution you could read in one scene in 15 minutes. Just look it up, get a PDF, you can read it in 15 minutes. India's Constitution, which is far more comprehensive, would take you a couple of hours if you were to give it a careful read. And even the United States Constitution, it was a copy and paste from the Magna Carta, Montesquieu, from all the thinkers that the colonists could steal upon. Because, you know, I think India and the US have this other common thing, is that we were governed by the crown, the Britishers. And just like India and the United States, when the revolutionaries, whether you call them Thomas Jefferson, or you call them Gandhi T, or Patel, or Ambedkar, once the wars were settled, now the hard part, how do you govern yourselves? That's the hard part. If you don't want a king, how do you decentralize power so there's citizen decision making? Well, For the US, which is one of the newer countries, but the oldest constitution, the drafters of the Constitution envisioned this. Government has three functions: to make the laws, enforce the laws, and interpret the laws. And the idea is that there was not going to be a central, all-powerful czar, an all-powerful king, but rather power belonged to the people. And that's why the Constitution preamble begins with "we the people." Notwithstanding at the time, it did not include African Americans, slavery was regulated, and women did not have the right to vote. But the first three articles of the Constitution are pretty clear. The national legislature, you make the laws. The executive branch, you enforce the laws. And then the third article, the judiciary, you interpret the laws. Co-sharing in power. If you take a perfect mathematical formula, it should be 33.3%, 33.3%, and 33.3%. It's not always right there, but the idea is a decentralized power. And if I do, I know it's lunchtime, I don't want to show you a cake. But this is the way we would look. It's a little more complicated because it's a federal model with a federal and a state. So it's like a 6-layer cake. And if you look at the way the Constitution is written, it's kind of like this. It's like a 3-lane highway. Legislative branch, make the laws. Executive branch, you enforce the laws. And on the national, also on the side of the judiciary, you interpret the laws. I like to use metaphors and images so you can kind of see what it is. Ideally, that's the way it should work. Reality, this is the US Constitution. This was on Ahmedabad last week. Now there's a beauty to this, what I call organized chaos. Now let me tell you something. You see, here, this is a traffic jam in Penn State University. I repeat, this is a traffic jam. This is business hours. When I travel on this highway, I always see accidents. A car off the side of the road. Another car off the side of the road. You're wondering, how do these crazy idiot Americans get in traffic accidents when this is going on? Here's the reason why. People are not paying attention. They're texting and driving. They're doing this. They're distracted. They're not paying attention. So a car goes off, and then you see an ambulance, and you see the police officers come to help the victims. Okay, now listen to this. You're talking to a person who spends maybe 6 or 7 weeks a year in any place in India, frequently Delhi and Ahmedabad. Where's some wood? Knock on wood. I've never seen a traffic accident in India. And I'm out and about. I'm in tuk-tuks, I'm in buses, I'm in trains, I'm all over the place. I never have seen, let's use this as an example, I've never seen an accident. Now, me, the short-witted mind from the United States, I've kind of come up with this concept. In a larger population, you've got to pay attention. And everybody knows the right-of-way rules. Number one, if you're a cow, you can wander anywhere you want on the street. You're the most protected traffic participant in this scenario. The next goes the big lorry or the big bus, and it goes to the car, then it goes to the tuk-tuk, and the last position is us walking around. And what I marvel, I don't see it here, but what I marvel when I see a father texting with 2 children and then his wife on the back seat and no accident, no problem. The point is, everybody is paying attention. And from a constitutional perspective, you don't see the words checks and balances in the US Constitution, but it's implied throughout. These 3 powers are supposed to be distinct, but equal in power sharing. I'm not going to go through all the mechanisms, But as the lead to what I'm going to talk about, there's one important mechanism to keep the check on the executive branch. And it comes from the legislative branch, and it comes from the judicial branch. And it is called impeachment. The ability, the constitutional authority to remove a president from office if he or she has committed a high crime or misdemeanor, however that's defined by the original Congress. And why is this relevant? This guy. And it's okay, I mean, please pardon my humor here, because sometimes humor overcomes my insecurity when I talk about this. And I think I don't need to tell you what I think about this person. Now, we both live in free societies where we're open to criticize and maybe even sometimes mock our duly elected leaders. Donald Trump, in his first presidency, I thought it was no way he was going to be elected. Zero chance. I would have wagered how many lots of rupees you want, he wasn't going to be elected. But he was fairly elected in democratic elections. It was not challenged. Not challenged. Because everyone had belief in the electoral process. Not only the theory of it all, but all the machines and all the computing and all the calculating. I mean, we Democrats, we were disappointed, sick to our stomachs when he won. But we didn't challenge the election. Fair and square. It was a result that we didn't want, but he got it. Well, in the course of his presidency, and I'm not going to go over this too many details, he was impeached once for what was thought to be untoward conduct in foreign policy when he was essentially leveraging aid to Ukraine against Ukraine's President Zelensky, giving him dirt or information with regard to his future foe, Biden's son. We won't go there. I think all of you are aware of this scene. Okay, now look at this. This was January 6th, 2021. If you were most Americans, and again, there's no such thing as an American, this scene was impossible to our eyes. Call us arrogant. We thought this would only happen in places like Pakistan. We thought this would happen in Honduras, Peru, Paraguay, Brazil. We thought that our Constitution was so bulletproof. We thought that there'd be such a natural transition of power that it seemed like this would never happen. I show this scene to every audience where I go when I give this overview of the Constitution, and I say, if you think this could never happen in Delhi, I think you're being naive. This is always a possibility in a democracy. So look at this. If I'm in Stockholm, or when I'm in Oslo, and I'm in Norway a lot, and I show this scene, like, this would never happen in Norway. Oh, really? That's exactly the way you're thinking. It's when you get relaxed and you get comfortable, and that's why the Constitution matters. In his second impeachment, Trump, and I'm not going to go over these details, there were two articles in impeachment pressed upon him. It had to do with his involvement on the day which should have been a normal transfer of power, almost ceremonial. He basically walked out on the White House lawn, spoke to his supporters, who had been organized by other parties, and he essentially gave these fighting words: do what you need to do. Now, are those the kind of legal words which can lead to prosecution for an insurrection? It'll be litigated in the courts. But this is what he's faced. He was not removed from office because he's already out of office. But the point is, he lost. He lost by millions of votes. And he challenged the election system. So here's what's going forward. So hold on to that. Here's what's going forward. Now you have a prominent Democrat. You've heard of him. He's going for a second term. There's a very, very minority candidate, but the chances of him winning are infinitesimally small. On the Republican side, there are two left. And I don't have a photo there, but here's kind of the cool thing. Biden, as you know, is Vice President Kamala Harris. Comes from India. Thank you, India. I mean, to her family. And on the Republican side, there's Trump, and God bless her. I'm not a Republican, but I hope Nikki Haley continues to prove. She would be, if she were to survive or get elected and go through this, she'd be the first. Think about it. What a cool thing. The first woman president and the first woman of Indian ancestry. I think, again, that kind of supports my original thought about how much we have in common. And then there's an independent, he's visiting with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's kind of inconsequential. He's kind of spoiler. But look what Trump is facing. He's facing state crimes and federal crimes. Almost 90 charges across 4 different jurisdictions. And if he is convicted of one of the state's charges, even if he were, God forbid, be elected president, he couldn't pardon himself. And that's another kind of mental exercise we're not going to go through. And hold on, because I'm going to get to forensic science in just a couple of minutes, but I have to kind of set this up. All of this action is going to be happening. There's a Super Tuesday primary, which is coming up in 2 weeks, which will pretty much sort out the delegates. Probably, most likely, Biden will emerge as the Democrat choice, and then Trump will emerge on the Republican side. So it's going to be a rematch, if you will, between the two parties, the two candidates from the last election. And while this is going on, Trump is going to be in trial, in person, in 4 different jurisdictions. Okay, hold on to that idea. So let's begin with this idea that, oh, there's always a peaceful transfer of power in the United States. Well, we've proven that that may not be the case, as sad as it is to admit that. It could have gone really out of control on January 6th. So, where does forensic scientists come in? And now I told you, I started in my opening remarks speaking from the heart. Then I've gone a little more academic on the Constitution, making it in a Netflix kind of understandable way. Not going into an arena that I know nothing about. Full disclosure, and you are the experts. I'm going to suggest that forensic science plays a large part in democracy, and especially now, especially as it relates to elections. It was always thought that elections were fairly smooth running, that the technology wouldn't be challenged, that the ballot box wouldn't be challenged. But we're in a new world. And it's just not the United States. It's Hungary, it's Romania, it's Italy, it's Spain, it's where elections are getting challenged. And these are large democracies. You're the largest democracy. What are you going to do? What is India going to do? What are we going to do when there's interference, whether it be on the campaigns come from outside India's borders? Because we faced it in the United States. I mean, the whole AI thing is just daunting. How do you stop all of these attacks that come in from other media? But more importantly, what happens when a candidate, let alone a president or a prime minister, says the election is rigged? Don't believe in the elections. Where does forensic scientists come in? I think if you're to ask, call me the common person who's not in the forensic science world. Here's a Steve. Name 2 forensic scientists. I say Sherlock Holmes, and this gentleman named Dr. Henry Lee, who's also lectured in, I think, with you and Omnibus. He was the one that was handling he's had thousands of trials. He was the one that famously was with the O.J. Simpson trial. So the common person like me, we just see you forensic scientists, we see you in TV dramas, Law and Order, whatever. We just know that you're scientists and you just kind of sort it out kind of on the back end when a problem happens. There's only been 2 presidencies or 2 presidential changes where the election's been challenged. When I say challenged, one was Bush versus Gore in 2000. So think about this place of 335 million across 50 states, and different states have their different rules in conformance with the Constitution. In this case, the tilting state was the state of Florida, and it's a winner take all. All the delegates go to the winner. That election held by 537 votes. So just think about a state population of 15 million. The victor was determined by a margin of 537 votes. And however Florida goes is how the United States goes. For whatever reason, when you could say there were reasons and political reasons, the Supreme Court did not allow the Florida Electoral Commission to authorize a manual hand count of all because then not everything was done electronically, the hand counts of the election. And so what happened is that we had forensic scientists like this gentleman here who is looking at old school ballots. And there are things called hanging chads. So, if you went into the polling booth, you punched one of these little holes, but let's say you accidentally punched 2 of them. You've got one chad, one little piece of punched paper that's hanging out by just a little bit, another one just by a little bit more, and the forensic scientists have to divine who did that person really vote for. That was challenged, but this would end up being a peaceful transfer of power, and Gore graciously accepted the ruling of the Supreme Court, and Bush carried on with the presidency. Here's what happened with Trump. When he went up for his re-election, 1 month in advance, his whole narrative, his whole campaign was built around, I'm so far ahead in the polls. He wasn't. There is, and if I do not win the election, then the election is rigged. Can you imagine Prime Minister Modi using those kinds of words? Please tell me you can't imagine it. But imagine this in the United States, because it really happened. So already he's created this doubt in the United States about the fairness of the election before the election has even happened. So what he did is he set up this scenario that he was going to win one way or the other. Here's what happened. He lost by a large margin, at least by presidential standards. On the presidential, he lost by a margin of 5 percentage points, 51% to 47%. And in these swing important states, they were close, but not like Florida, where it's 537 votes. These were tens of thousands of votes. But you want to know what? 1 in 3 Americans believe Trump's narrative, even today. 100 million are still buying onto his narrative that somehow the election was stolen from him. So this is kind of a perfect storm, which is happening this November. So what's the forensic scientist to do? What's next if these 2 gentlemen are running for the presidency? I would suggest more global, that the media should responsibly present polling. It's not purely scientific. When If a pollster calls them on the phone or asks them on the street, it gives you a bird's eye view of how it might turn out. That's a pretty huge margin, plus 2 or 3 points. And if you're in an election, that's a pretty big swing, or as we say, it's an even race. And I also think that during the day of the election, they have to hold their guard. Everyone wants to be the first one out on the media to announce who the winner is. I think you have to hold on to those projections. Secondly, this is where I come to this. Forensic scientists in the United States should be leaping forward over their chairs and getting to the media so they're in a position to explain the margins of error. And if it is challenged, how forensic scientists play a role in explaining it and getting into all of the irregularities that normally happen in an election. I think that they have to be proactive. I don't think forensic scientists should wait and then be the last media star on television to give their reports. I think they have to have a toolkit ready right now. I mean, right now. So if there are contested elections in any of these states, that these forensic scientists are armed and ready to open their toolbox. And notwithstanding, there are still some people that don't believe in climate science, or they don't believe in forensic science. They have to be ready because they're going to be paying very key players. Also, many of you, I think most of you are in the forensic science world, you're dealing with very complicated equations, very complicated theorems. I think the forensic science in the United States have to be prepared to tell a dummy like me about their theorems, how they reach their conclusions. There is something, and I found this on the plane, it's called Benford's Law. And this kind of explains how you find irregularities. I have no idea what that means. If someone says 2x equals 8, give me 5 minutes, I'll tell you x equals 4. But I look at this, and I think, I have no idea. And even if you try to explain to me what this Benford's Law is all about. But forensic scientists, whether they're hired by a commission at the electoral level, or on there on the media, or when they're called to testify in trial, I think the key challenge is for forensic scientists to be able to explain it so that we can all understand. It's just like the Indian Constitution. I read it, and it reads in a way that I can understand. It's not full of legalese. The Constitution is written for the people. The U.S. Constitution, it's like reading Shakespeare at some level. It's very difficult to understand. But here in India, you have the benefit of having a constitution which can be understood or appreciated by a literate person. But forensic scientists, just like other scientists, you have to be able to translate into conversational ways so the public can understand. So, I would put it to you, and I highly doubt, I don't know, Dr. Chodari, if there is, or Dr. Chwan, if there's a special class, maybe it's involved in business forensics, whatever, there's like an overlap. I would suggest to you that you have an opportunity. And I suggest to you that you also have a duty to hone up your sciences, because it's going to happen. There are going to be contested elections, whether it be at the state level or a small level. But I think, as the world's largest democracy, we cannot be naive to think that there is never going to be a constitutional crisis on the horizon unless we have scientists behind us to defend the very precepts and the aspirations of the Constitution in India. Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Chodari and Dr. Chauhan and the distinguished Vice Chancellor for to be here with you today. Thank you for letting me feel like I'm always home in India. And I'm grateful through this chain of custody that I'm here. And it was through my sister, Dr. Curti. So just remember one thing that I just told you. Forensic science matters if we're going to take our democracy serious. And it happens at the ground level, just like Dr. Choudhury gave brilliant examples. That's where it starts. It's the evidence gathering. If you don't have a solid evidence code and you don't have at the investigation level, if you don't have those necessary tools for keeping up with technology, then the whole system falls apart. But 30,000 feet as we fly over democracies, we also have to have a view of the forensic sciences and its larger impact when it comes to elections and transfers of power. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We now continue with our session with our speaker for today, Ms. Inakshi Ganguly, Honorary Professor, National Law University, Odisha. Ms. Ganguly is a development researcher and a human rights activist working on issues of women, children, and other marginalized groups for over 3 decades. Since co-founding HAQ, Center for Child Rights in 1999, she worked on children's rights until she stepped out in 2018. Her expertise includes research, training, and advocacy on issues concerning different marginalized groups, including children, women, tribals, displaced persons, and sexual minorities. In January 2023, her most recent book titled Juvenile, Not Delinquent, Children in Conflict with the Law was released at the Jaipur Lit Fest. We are glad to have you with us. I now request Dr. Sneha Sagar, Assistant Professor, to facilitate Ms. Inakshi Madam with the token of our gratitude. Thank you, ma'am.
I think you're the most patient audience I've ever seen. Can I urge everyone to just stand up for a minute so that we can all just stand up? We can just stand up. Bend down, feel a little better. हाँ सबके पैर वैर अकड़ गए होंगे. So yeah, stretch yourself. Stretch. I don't think you have such long classes ever. Thank you very much. The reason that I'm cutting into your lunchtime is because I have to go. At 3:30, I have a credit course to start at the National Law University of Odisha. And 3:30, my students will be waiting, and it's not fair that I should make them wait. Dr. Chaudhary, Dr. Rao, Dr. Barnes, my privilege to be here, and my privilege to be here speaking in front of you, sir. I'm not even a law professor, I'm just honorary. You're the real one. So I'm not a legal expert, and I'm not a forensic expert. So what I will, but as you also heard, I'm a human rights person, so my questions are always contrary and in dissonance to most people. So what I'm going to try and do is raise a few questions, which I hope you will be able to address in the course of your discussions. So I'm going to not just draw upon my experience, I'm going to draw upon the experience of the police I trained. I just finished a police training with the Goa police trainer at the academy in Alti last week, and we were discussing this law. I also quickly called up all my legal expert friends, including from the National Law Universities. I said, I don't know what to say to them, but can you help me? So I gathered a little bit more information from them. Then I called up a few judges, because I also do judicial training. Apart from you, sir, I must be the only other senior citizen in this room. So I called up a few judges and I said, what do you think? So what I've gathered and what I'm sharing with you is this very quick gathering of evidence, because we really have to go fast. It's the July is like 4 months away. And in 4 months, we're supposed to be implementing something that we haven't been able to. Law and justice has not been implemented in 75 years at the speed that we wanted. So, I mean, so you're very hopeful. 3 years, like, I'm very hopeful. It's not something I have experienced in the courts. So, hopefully. So apart from reading the text, which I have done, and if you haven't read it, the National Law University of Delhi, Project 39A, if you go there, they have actually taken the text, they have colored it for you in pink, yellow, and green. So you know which is the new text, you know what is the old existing text, and what the changes are. So they've made it really easy, and so I've been through the text very hastily since Shweta told me that I was supposed to be here. But when I was reading the text, I saw, and I know this is not the appropriate forum for it, but I have to beg, that, there was so many changes that required a complete new structure. It could have probably been amendments, because suddenly now, Section 370, which I was doing a training with, on trafficking with the Goa police, has become 143. Section 376. What is 376? Does anyone know? Now you'll have to say 99. Change. Suddenly, for years and years, 302, 376. No, this is part of our everyday life. And now you say, that's how we have to now. So think about this. There is a police person sitting, man, in some village alone in one thana, with one pile of books which used to be IPC, CRPC and special laws. Today has to start looking and say, nay. And when he does, and he puts the wrong section, what will you forensic people do? So he remembers 376. She remembers 376. I don't remember 376. I put 376 as the offense. 376 is completely different something. And now you have got the forensic evidence to be doing. So my first concern when I was reading was that it is definitely, therefore, going to unleash widespread and legal confusion, which we need to be prepared to deal with. And how are we going to do that? Although the purpose of the new laws is to get rid of the colonial legacy and delete very archaic terms, the language of modesty of women has been retained, and it really bothers me. So, if we are going to become modern, then the language has to be modern. Modesty of women, what about modesty of men, others, transgender? Modesty of women is a Victorian term that feminists have fought against for years. So, if it was to be modern, I wish they had taken that out. And this is despite Justice Verma's report, the committee report, that non-penetrative sexual assault be penalized under Section 354 without reference to 354, without reference to modesty of women, had been recommended. So if you are looking at recommendations from everyone, not so all of them have come through, and so we women might not be always so happy. The use of technology and forensic science in the criminal justice system is stated as, just as Dr. Chaudhary pointed out, as one of the main parts of the law. This part discusses the main provision that deals with the use of forensic evidence, that is clause 176(3). This is very important, and not that I know too much about it, but I must admit that it is fascinating, because my own DNA testing, the DNA and genome testing showed that I belong to 18 ethnic communities out of 47. And I did the test like 6 months ago, including Amazonian, which was 0.7. So we do not, we had been listening to these morning conversations while we were drinking tea in that room was fascinating. We clearly have the know-how you said to tell us. But when I travel into the interiors, and I've just come back from the very interiors of Uttarakhand, I was wondering how we really use technology. I couldn't get through to my family on my phone. There are no towers. Internet is scanned. I went into one place where there was a video conferencing facility. In front of the video conferencing, in front of the big screen was a stack of rice, one over the other. Because, man, we never use this. There is never enough electricity or band to use it. But yes, somebody has put it into the panchayat. So now, I mean, I'm not trying to dissuade the country, or who am I to do so? But the fact of the matter is that if in July we need to start, there is a lot of infrastructure capacity building that we need to do. And how are we proceeding to do that, including with the forensics? And COVID has taught us a lot of lessons. So as Dr. Rao reminded us, should technology be at the cost of justice? And I leave that, bring back that question to every one of you. As my mentor, Dr. Vasudha Dhalambar, who you may know, sir, used to say the tail must not wag the dog must wag the tail. So, if technology is important, but it cannot be the solution for everything. My second observation is that many of the offenses have much higher and enhanced and mandatory punishments, and including life imprisonment, death. And I am with you. I'm a total anti-death penalty activist, have been all my life. I have seen in my own life with working with young children who are victims of sexual abuse, that they return hostile in court because they do not want their father, brother, because 70% of sexual offenses are by people known to them. They do not want death penalty, they want punishment. The minute they hear that there will be death penalty, they turn hostile. So clearly, even if all of us as in society we ask, we pay for blood, the victims may not find a sense of justice. So that, I think, is a conversation that needs to continue as we draft more laws. But then, that's not part of today's lecture. But thank you, Dr. Barnes, for reminding us. So what we do need is rightful conviction, timely justice, and not more and more penal laws. But that's what we have got. We've got very stringent punishments, as has been pointed out by many. And now with all these stringent punishments, judges will remind you, if judicial discretion is taken away, they will need much better evidence to convict. And that's where you come in. They cannot, if they have the slightest doubt, the perpetrator will walk. Because they have to be doubly, triply, completely convinced that there has been a crime. So that's again a question that I leave you with to discuss. Some offenses are very, very broad, sweeping, vaguely articulated crimes like false and misleading information, acts of endangering sovereignty. Maybe many of you in my current conversation can say that I was doing that. So, what constitutes that? How do you find evidence for it? What kind of forensics will you require for it? So, there are many such examples of vague terminologies that continue, which used to be there, now continue. So, how are we going to deal with those? So, why have I taken all these examples? Because I feel that the kind of evidence that we're going to need has to become much better, more ठोस बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में ठोस. I remember my एक पीआई के साथ खड़ी थी. I was the investigating officer to the lady. She's telling me, madam, I have to go. Where? You were in court. But I have to go. I have to submit this sample to the laboratory in Rohini, Delhi. You know, Rohini is pretty far away. And then she took it out. It was a slide. Inside her bag was her tiffin box with paratha, achar, everything inside it. The slide was just by itself, like this. So this is really the training we have of dealing with samples and forensic evidence. In this, we have to lift this standard to where all of us are aspiring to be, and that's where your role is. Often we had evidence of rape victims who had washed their clothes and had a bath. So what do you do then? The new law introduces new requirement procedure for investigation, prescribed collection of forensic evidence from crime scenes by a forensic expert, sir has mentioned it, in all offences punishable by imprisonment of 7 years or more, and provides for a 5-year period of implementation. Considering the lack of statutory requirements in the crime scene management, the introduction of this clause is a significant step towards ensuring proper collection of forensic evidence from crime scenes in serious cases. However, there is a 5-year period for implementation. So it is unclear whether the time limit has been prescribed for states to notify the date of implementation, because all states have different forms of collecting forensic investigation, or for the implementation of the provision itself. Currently, the practices for evidence collection vary across states. Thus, while mandating evidence collection by an expert is a positive change, implementation of the measure may prove challenging in the forensic science system. And what do we do about this? And I hope that's the question you will address. I have been told clearly that the capacity of experts, state-of-the-art labs, technicians, police officials who can collect the correct evidence, and judicial officers who can deal with it, this is a race against time. This law expands the types of these laws expand the type of forensic examples that may be collected from any person upon magisterial order. It, however, retains an exemption for certain government scientific experts from appearing as witnesses before the court unless the genuineness of their report is under doubt. According to the paper by type 39A of the NLUD, the law seeks to expand and enhance the state's power to collect forensic evidence, both from crime scenes and individuals, while simultaneously reducing the scope of the examination of the experts. Something to discuss. The necessary infrastructure for crime scene visits, evidence collection in the form of mobile vans equipped with requisite instruments and material would also require a significant investment across the state. Now, forensic experts, according to this law, could be private experts as well as government experts. Right? Am I right? Okay. Doctors can also be private experts and government doctors, but doctors come under the medical association. What happens to forensic experts who are private? Question. With the need for evidence, can forensic sciences be free of malpractices from the police or manipulation from planting of evidence? Is the criminal administrative machinery, therefore, ready for this huge administrative exercise and vital line? So this is my end, but I would like to end by telling you a little story. Day before yesterday, I had a guest. My husband runs a cafe. He came and said to me, here's a riddle. A man was lying dead. He had a cut across his throat. There was a stick by his side, an half-empty bottle of beer, and a book on the page 57 and 58. The policeman in charge took this evidence and went off. His senior said to him, either you do not know how to take evidence or you never went into the crime scene. Anyone for an answer? Since I was not a forensics person, I could not answer. I couldn't sleep the whole night. You cannot have a book open on page 57 and 58. 57 will always, 58 will always come after 50. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. I now request Dr. Lokesh Chauhan, Dean Academics, to propose the mock panels.
Good afternoon to all. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, Professor Dr. R. Venkata Rao, Honorable Vice Chancellor, India International University of Legal Education and Research, Goa, our esteemed guest of honor, Poonam Bhandeji, Director Prosecution, Omir Singh, IPS, Inspector General of Police, Goa, Professor Stephen Barnes, Dean at Penn State Law School, and Meenakshi Ganguly Madam, Honorary Professor, National Law University, our Deputy Registrar, Sri Raman Kumar ji, all the faculty members, participants from various law and enforcement agencies and various institutions, and my dear students. So we are at the end of or conclusion of our inaugural session of one-day international conference on use of technology and forensics with respect to new criminal laws. So on behalf of entire NFSU Goa campus, I extend heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for your valuable presence and making this event successful. Starting from our chief guest, we are profoundly grateful to our chief guest, Professor Dr. R. Venkata Rao, Vice Chancellor, for gracing us with your valuable presence and insightful remarks. Your wisdom and expertise have truly enriched our discussion. We extend our sincere gratitude to our esteemed guest of honor, IG Sahab Umbidli, and Director Prosecution, Poonam Madam, for your valuable presence and enlightening contribution to this workshop by differentiating our existing law by new law, as well as highlighting the perspective of the police side by our IG Sahab. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Stephen Barnes, Associate Dean of Graduate and International Program at Penn State Law School, for graciously accepting our invitation and agreeing to deliver keynote address. His unwavering support and willingness to accommodate our request despite of numerous confirmations are deeply appreciated. A special mention goes to our Honorable Vice Chancellor of National Forensic Sciences University, Padma Shri Dr. J.M. Vyas, for his constant support and encouragement to organize this kind of event. We would like to express our heartfelt thanks to Professor Naveen Kumar Chaudhary, Campus Director, NFSU Goa Campus, for his uninterrupted support and leadership and guidance for organizing this workshop. To all the distinguished participants, your active participation and insightful contribution have made this workshop truly enriching experience. Last but not least, big thanks to dedicated organizing team led by Dr. Glorita, Dr. Setanidhi, Dr. Nanmai Kale, Dr. Sneha, and all the student volunteers for their hard work and dedicated meticulous planning, ensuring the smooth conduct of this workshop. Once again, thank you all for your invaluable contribution towards the success of this workshop. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir. I now request all the dignitaries and delegates to proceed outside for a group photograph and then we take a break for lunch. We will assemble